Hi, my name is Andrea Cruz, and I believe that Roe and Casey were correctly decided, but Griswold was not. First and foremost, I believe it is a woman's fundamental right as the childbearer to decide whether or not to have an abortion. This ability to decide for oneself is an essential aspect of a woman's personal autonomy and can affect both emotional and mental health. However, with that being said, I do not believe that abortion should be used as a method of birth control. Creating another human should not be taken lightly, and therefore the decision to get an abortion should have enough requirements that it causes the decision maker to think about whether or not it is truly what they want to do. But once that decision is made, the woman should have the right to follow through in a safe and legal manner. One of our substantive rights as Americans is the right to privacy. This right should protect against state government intrusion on things such as the intimate relationship between sexual partners, whether they are married or not, and should extend to a woman's right to choose. Which is why in Griswold, I think the resulting judgment was acceptable, but the majority's reasoning was wrong. Rather than focusing on the Griswold majority's analysis of penumbras and the zone of privacy created by other amendments, I agree with Justice Harlan's concurring opinion. He focused on the violation of basic values implicit in the 14th Amendment's due process concept of ordered liberty. And that is also why I think the majority got it right in Roe. The majority didn't really focus on penumbras in its analysis. Rather, it determined the right to privacy and concept of personal liberty are located in the 14th Amendment's due process clause. The Roe Court also found a way to navigate through treacherous moral and religious implications of determining when life begins by finding justification in the language of the Constitution. For example, the court used a textual analysis of what person means under the Constitution and found that the language only applies to a born person, not to an unborn child. To me, that's a really important aspect of the court's opinion because no one truly can pinpoint when life begins, as I think it comes down to our individual belief systems. And had the court defined when life began, the Roe decision would have been subjected to being overturned by later justices who might have had a different viewpoint of when life begins. This way, the court was able to focus on the objective aspects of abortion from the perspective of compelling interests. I also agree with the court's statement that adopting one theory of life does not override the rights of the pregnant woman that are at stake. And by focusing on the mother's safety first, the rights of the pregnant woman, which are a compelling interest, are protected. I also agree with the court's use of the viability of the fetus as a marker of when the state's interest becomes compelling to protect the potentiality of human life. If a fetus can survive outside of the mother's womb, even the terminology used to describe it changes. It's no longer even called a fetus, it's called a preemie, or it's called a baby. And by analyzing the situation in this manner, the Roe Court's application of strict scrutiny led to the decision that an abortion statute that prohibits all abortions, except those to save a mother's life, is unconstitutional because it violates the right to privacy. But this manner does allow regulation at the point in time when there is a compelling interest for either safety or the protection of the potentiality of human life. In Casey, I also think the majority got it right because it reaffirmed much of the Roe decision, while at the same time slightly broadening the state's authority to regulate abortions. The court reaffirmed that the fundamental right to privacy, as established in Griswold, should be extended to a woman's right to decide whether or not to get an abortion. But the court also added some additional rules with the undue burden test, which are designed to ensure the woman seeking the abortion is well informed and truly wants to continue with the procedure. And while the Casey court rejected the Roe trimester framework, I do think that framework was a reasonable solution at the time in history when Roe was decided. But in modern times, the more appropriate measure should simply be based on the viability of the fetus, as used in Casey. So in conclusion, I don't think there will ever be agreement when it comes to the topic of abortion because we each have different personal views based on various reasons such as religion, culture, and fundamental aspects of our upbringing. But I do think we should be able to agree that a woman's right to choose is part of the fundamental right to privacy.